Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Rahama Gandhi back with some more choices that matter and someone out. And then in the last video, we finally got Modi back, but at the cost of Petrus getting stabbed and killed. And it turns out that I was right. Dagger and Crank, those motherfuckers, those treacherous motherfuckers, they took him. I knew it. And we've tracked them down, and we're now going to go and confront them with Sharon. And I told her to go ahead and pick a vehicle and let's go. And so yeah, let's continue. I can pick any one. Really? She asked, looking around at the expensive vehicles. Only if you do it fast, I muttered, amused at how pleased Sharon was. Right, yes, we'll take this one. She snatched a set of keys and held them high. Miss Dagger's on the move, teacher. It's time we are too. Agreed. It took us most of the afternoon to get close to Dagger without her seeing us. Not only had she kept on the move, but Crank was often waiting in the car, not allowing us to approach them. We should just rush them, Sharon suggested, eager for action. They're better trained than either of us, I shook my head. What, you think the element of surprise is in our favor? They know we're coming for them. Fair call, she sighed, sinking down into her seat. Eventually, around dinner time, Crank got out of the car with Dagger and they had an argument. I couldn't hear the words, but from the gestures, Crank wanted to go in and Dagger wanted him to wait in the car. It's a restaurant, Sharon murmured, looking at the building they were in front of. He's hungry. Typical man. You speak Russian? I asked, surprised, though I'm not sure why. I already knew she was bilingual. I picked up a few things, she shrugged. How do you want to play this? Dagger and Crank both walked aside. Dagger not at all pleased. I opened my door and stepped out. Follow my lead and stay close. She nodded and followed me out of the car and across the street. We had parked far enough away that we didn't raise suspicion. I was relieved when I saw, as I'd hoped, the restaurant was set up with a partition between the entrance and those seated. Doubly relieved when I also saw there were separate meals and bar sections. I smiled at the host and let him know that we were interested in the bar side. He stared at me, confused. Sharon suddenly spoke in Russian, and the man laughed, nodding and leading us to the two seats at the bar. What did you say? I asked, looking over my shoulder for any signs of I was about to say Kragger or Dank. Dagger or Crank. That's my sibling. Was a half-wit and didn't speak Russian. She smiled, ordering a beer and one for me too. I took it, grateful to have something in my hands. I don't know why he bought it. It's an obvious lie, I muttered, winking at her. She laughed in return. That you're my sibling or that you're a half-wit? I don't think this is the time to chat, teacher. Mr. Crank is heading to the back of the restaurant where the toilets are. We should ambush him. Oh, that's right. Bathrooms only have one entrance. Sharon turned around and nodded to me, indicating that she'd seen him. Perhaps a better plan is to sit at Dagger's table. We've got a better chance if they're divided. I thought it over. Sharon, guard the door and whistle if Crank comes back. I'm going to chat with Dagger. I'm gonna go have a chat with Dagger, bro. I left the bar and circled around so that I was behind Dagger so she wouldn't see me until I sat down. I moved as quickly as I could without raising a commotion, sitting down and shoving my taser into her knee. Maybe she knew it wasn't a gun. Maybe she didn't. She'd just taken a sip of her wine and her glass was still poised next to her lips. Slowly she put it down. You don't have it in you, kid. I don't? I countered, anger thumbing in my voice. You killed my friend, kidnapped another one. That's right! That's right! Oh, please. I was only going to trade your hardware back at the company to get myself out of this mess. Me and Crank. Neither yourself nor Dolores, even though ever thought of us in all this. Don't be ridiculous, I snarled. Everything we'd done was about saving everyone by keeping the sun in our sky. And it didn't matter who you brought down in the process, huh? I'm tired of being a henchman, so now I'm making my own way in the world. Can we kill her now? You're going to kill me, she laughed, crossing her legs. With a taser? Fuck, she knows. It'll do until I can get someone else involved. Dagger looked up and smiled behind me, showing her teeth in what felt like shark-like menace. Crank's on his way back. You can't take us both down. Taser Dagger, get Dagger. I pulled the trigger and Dagger convulsed for several moments before slumping in her chair. Hopefully no one was looking at us too closely, as I didn't want to make a scene. Before I could turn to confront Crank, I felt something cold press against the back of my neck. A knife. It's a knife. I looked towards the bar and noticed Sharon watching. Carefully, I shook my head, indicating that she shouldn't approach. You better have a good reason for doing that, Weasel. Crank growled. What? Huh? What? What? Crank growled, grabbing a nearby vacant chair sitting next to me, the knife sliding to my waist. Like you don't already know, I sneered, keeping incredibly still. The two of you betrayed us all. And how exactly did we do that? He retorted, voice dangerously low. Miss Dagger stole me. She intended to sell me information about Miss Montague and everyone else to the company. She wanted to steal the jet. Crank's eyes zeroed in on Modi and raised an eyebrow. I find no reason to believe you, he growled, his jaw tightening. Dagger is loyal to Montague. Call Dolores, I muttered, holding out my phone to him. See what she says. He stared at the phone, hesitating. Wait for his decision. We're gonna wait. The next few moments were tense, but slowly Crank took my phone and dialed the number. He knew it by heart. Crank held the phone to his ear and narrowed his eyes at me. Tell your friend to join us, he hissed, waiting as it rang. I'll let Miss Sharon know. Thank you, Modi, I murmured, not thankful at all. I heard Dolores pick up a greeting and jump right into orders before Crank cut her off. Montague, what's happening? He asked, not taking his eyes from me as Sharon joined us to stand beside me. You had Dagger and me run errands all day. He listened, the pause longer than I thought was necessary before nodding and lowering his knife. I see. Do you want us to follow her? He asked, the tone in his voice strangely tight. Alright, we'll see you soon. He hung up and handed me back my phone. We're heading to the new location Dolores has set up, he told us, not looking either of us in the eye. Miss Dagger's still an issue, Mr. Crank. I'd like to find and hurt her. Well, we'll get to that after we've reconnected with Montague, he said stiffly, moving to leave. Once we were all in the car again, Sharon and Dagger in the trunk and Sharon driving, I gave Crank a critical look. You okay, big man? How do I know I can trust you? Yeah. He turned to face me in the back seat. You can never know something like that, he said honestly. I trusted Dagger and it looks like I was wrong. She wanted to get you out too, I think, I admitted. Get you back in the company's good books. Maybe so, he shrugged, but I have very few rules in my book, and loyalty is one of them. Dagger's betrayed that loyalty, and now I can't trust her. I gotta say, Crank, Sharon muttered, I didn't take you for the smart one of the two. Gilbert. Gilbert's his real name, I guess. What? My legal name is Gilbert, he muttered, looking out the window. Crank seemed more fitting, but there's no Crank without Dagger, I concluded. He nodded. I sat back and gave him his space. He'd had a rough day. Dolores' new hideout seemed to be a privately owned airstrip. Older-style Spitfires were littered around a nearby field, and I wondered idly if any of them worked. We parked next to the jet, and Dolores came out to meet us. She's in the trunk, I said right away. She nodded and handed Gilbert a set of cuffs. Secure her over there, she said, pointing to the shadow of one of the larger Spitfires. He nodded and set to work. I need more than my own two eyes here, she said to Sharon and me. This place is too large and has too many entrances. I'm glad Crank is still with us. What are you going to do with her? I want to know. Heaving a deep breath, she rubbed her neck. I'll take care of it, she said finally. She's my mistake. I'll fix it. I didn't argue with her. I'd rather not know, honestly. First priority for you two right now is to head to the hospital, Dolores said, shaking her uncharacteristically melancholic mood. Oh my god. I'm struggling with some of these words. Hospital, I asked, confused. What information is there? We're getting Satin, come on. Satin, she scoffed, rolling her eyes at me. She's there. Right, Sharon muttered. She might not be safe there after all this. Are any of us safe, really? I sighed, rubbing my eyes. The sun is going to go out again, and soon. We have information, but don't know what it means. Baby steps, Dolores confirmed. Dolores firmly said, Now, I need you to leave your emoticon here with me. Sharon and I both raised our eyebrows, stunned. Why? If I may, teacher. I would be more useful here with Miss Montague. I can help her secure this area and gather information while you pick up Miss Satin. Why do I feel that picking Satin up won't be as simple as it sounds? I muttered, uncomfortable. Sharon shifted beside me, narrowing her eyes at Dolores. We should trust you, Sharon stated, chewing on her words. But you've been pretty secretive. You need to give us something more. I'm not as young as I was, Dolores burst out suddenly. I can't hold down this position by myself. That's why I asked you to come back. I can connect Moody to the surveillance system. Oh. I said nothing, resisting. I'd been without Modi for so long already. Fine, Dolores muttered. It's your choice. Either you leave Modi with me or Sharon stays behind. As long as one of them stays to help me. She strode off in a huff, and I stared at her. What do you want me to do, mate? Sharon was uneasy, still looking at Dolores. I didn't blame her, and uncertain Dolores was putting me on edge as well. Alright, you know what? I trust her, okay? I gotta show her that I trust her. Dolores, wait, I called, jogging after her. Just be careful, okay? I requested while unstrapping Modi and handing them over to her. Modi's precious to me. I can understand that, she sniffed. I'll be sure to keep it safe. And only ask Modi a million questions. Right? I said dryly before turning back to join Sharon. Sharon had the car running and ready by the time I got to her. I wasted no time jumping into the passenger seat. To be honest, I'm glad you decided to take me with you, she admitted, smiling as she turned the car around. Have I started to get into Sharon's, flirt stage? Have I started to get to there? Go on. Why, you miss me that much? I joked, staring out the window to where Dolores waved goodbye with the hand she held Modi with. No, I hate to think of you driving around Moscow, she chuckled, winking at me. Aww. I laughed, elevating the mood for a moment. I don't know what you're talking about, I quipped. I'm an excellent driver. Sure, if you're driving a bumper car, she laughed. Fuck. Rude, I sniffed. And to think I was starting to grow fond of you. I was going to fight Vadik off, you know. Oh my god. Vadik, she said with a stern look and a twinkle in her eye, is his own worst enemy. He doesn't need your help. Noted. Not sure I can actually take him in an arm wrestle anyways. We approached the hospital with caution. The more I saw of Moscow, the more I realized how much its government had collapsed. While other nations had tightened their rules, Russia seemed to have turned into a lawless state instead. God damn. On a short half-hour drive, I'd seen several burning buildings. Aside from the looters, I had not seen a single soul on the street. The sane ones must have stayed inside and locked their doors. All this because the sun went out a few times, the chaos, the complete alienation of everything we had ever known before. Good God. Everything we knew was wrong, the astronaut had said. Looking around, I could agree with that. I traveled most of the world since the first incident that I had in my entire life, and I realized I had no idea what the world was like before the sun went out. Things had changed that drastically. How many people have died? I asked. Excuse me, Sharon asked, startled by the sudden question. Since the sun first flickered out. Sharon's face grew grim and she stared ahead without emotion. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe. It doesn't matter. How can you say that? She asked. I asked, aghast. More will die if we can't keep on track and fix what's wrong with our solar system, she said softly, swallowing. I sighed, knowing she was right to be analytical rather than emotional, though I didn't like it. Sharon had lost more than most. If we got bagged down with emotions like grief and guilt, we'd never make it. When the hospital came into view, I was surprised to see a familiar face loitering on the streets in front of it. Satin. Oh, she just got released. Sharon pulled up and I wound down my window. Are you alright? What happened? I'm fine, she slurred as she fell onto the backseat of the car and laid down. You'll forgive me if I don't trust the locals right now. So you bust yourself out, huh? Sharon asked. Hell yeah, she laughed. Sharon carefully pulled away from the curb. Man, I busted out of the hospital and she busted out of the hospital. No one trusted. They said some stuff in Russian and I took it as my cue to leave. Satin added. Probably a good call. Are we heading back to the estate or another hotel? Neither, I said, turning to look at Satin. We moved shop after a sabotage. Super, she muttered. No, not super. What drugs did they have you on? I asked. All of them, she declared happily, closing her eyes. And she's out. Sharon giggled, looking in the rearview mirror. I nodded my head, turning the heater on in the back. It's probably best. Sleep heals all. Yeah, it heals pretty good. No, it really doesn't. It doesn't hurt. Well, you ain't wrong there. I'm usually quite right, actually. Getting back to the landing, stripping and Satin into a makeshift bed in the jet took around an hour. It was dark by the time it was done. I stepped outside to where Sharon was staring at the stars and looked up as well. I'm assuming Modi was fine here, she asked, obviously reluctant to break the silence. Yeah, did a few updates, fixed a few cameras. Modi honestly thinks that Dolores just didn't want to be alone. Sharon frowned. I couldn't blame her. It didn't sound like the Dolores I knew. Sharon looked at me, noticing my naked wrist. Where's Modi? Plugged into my tablet to get all the information Modi missed out on while out of action, I said. We need to decipher Luca's message and I'm not sure how to start. Sharon didn't say anything. She didn't have to. We were at a dead end if something didn't change. Vadik returned near down the next day. While shoveling food into his mouth, he handed over the data he hacked. While the new data didn't add anything to the astronaut's audio message, it confirmed that it was authentic. Teacher, I'm unsure why everyone is confused. What do you mean, Modi? I asked, pushing around the eggs Dolores had served up. The message clearly states that everything we know is wrong. That's exactly the problem, little calculator. Sharon snorted from where she was sitting next to Satin. What do we know? That the sun has been going out, Dolores mused, dropping fresh bread onto the table and sitting herself. That's all we know for sure. So that is wrong. If we used Boolean logic, that means that the sun hasn't been going out. We all stopped eating. Modi remained silent, waiting for a penny to drop. Modi, what are you trying to say? I asked, throat dry. Something else has been happening. So the sun hasn't been going out, but something else has. Teacher, it's simple. The sun hasn't been disappearing. The earth has. Oh my god. What the fuck? Oh! That's impossible. Not so long ago, the sun going out was impossible. Reigniting the sun is equally impossible, yet it happened. We must realize that the impossible is now possible. I put my head in my hands and groaned. Just because a computer says so, it doesn't make it so, Vadik argued, shaking his head. But it is right, Dolores said, standing to pace around the table. I don't know how it's possible, but it's the only puzzle piece that fits. Good Lord. We need to confirm it, I stated, my words muffled. How on earth are we going to confirm that the Earth is the problem? Are we sure there's no video with the recording? Oh, there's a video, Vadik said. We all turned to him at once. What? I started. Why didn't you? Because the recording got corrupted during transmission, Vadik interrupted. It's a miracle NASA managed to reconstruct the audio track at all. From what I can see, they pulled all stops to reconstruct the video too, and they failed, Vadik shrugged. Unless we go to the source, we're not going to see the video. The source. The moon, Vadik said seriously. Literally, your astronauts seem to have crashed there. Dolores cursed disappointedly. Oh, God. I sighed and shut my eyes. So we're out of options. There's one option, Sharon muttered, reaching out to touch my hand. I took hers in my own, grateful for the support. We go to the source, she said, to space, to the moon, get the uncorrupted recording, and see it for ourselves. Now that's impossible, Vadik laughed, staring incredulously at Sharon. We are not astronauts. But I might know some we can send to space to get the recording, Satin said, the first word she uttered since waking. I might even know some who are already involved with the Russian space program. We all stared at her, disbelief still sinking in. Are we doing this? I asked Dolores, looking to her as a leader. Are we really going to try and do this? She stared back at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Yes we are, she finally said. We have to. Question is, are we going to bring in Saturn's Russians or try to convince some of our American astronauts from back home to help us? There was a moment of silence as everyone turned to me. I blinked back at them. Me? My decision? I asked, panicked. You've got us this far, Sharon shrugged. I nodded, thinking it through. I trust our people, bro. Honestly, I don't trust Russia right now because the freaking government has gone to shite. But from what I understand is that American government has not fallen yet. Dolores nodded. I'll make the arrangements, she said, turning on her heel. I watched her go, my admiration for her growing. Modi, contact the China team, I continued on a roll. Let them know what's happening and what we've decided to do. Yes, teacher. I'll contact Mr. Etienne and let him know that we are waiting for him. I took a deep breath, looking around the table. It took several moments before it really sank in. We were actually going to send astronauts to the moon to retrieve a video recording. A very important video recording. I nodded at everyone. I guess we're going to space. Arc 12 completed. You and 8% of players caught Dagger and will be recruiting American astronauts. Damn, what the fuck? 8%? Did everyone just trust the Russians? What? Or did nobody catch a Dagger? What the hell? Okay. Guess I can make it up to the first choice in Arc 13. Teacher? He updated twice. He updated to 1.28. Teacher? Yes, Modi, I say, grabbing the last box of provisions from the jet. Dolores had organized food and new identities for us all. For the first time, I wondered how she did that. She wasn't connected to the company anymore, so how was she creating people and credit cards out of thin air? I could ask, but I doubt she'll tell me. Why does Miss Sharon no longer trust me? What? What are you talking about? When I complete tasks, she isn't always pleased. Does she not think I'm competent? She thinks you're too competent, I grumbled. Shannon and I had a discussion last night while Modi was on charge in the other room. My Modicon was different, special, but how or why we didn't know. You do things without being asked and go outside the perimeters of your programming, I continued, shutting the door to the second car of our convoy. We were heading to Vostokny Kosmodrome near Sots. Oh my god. Sotskovsky. In a convoy of cars, Dolores would fly the plane over and meet us there. I thought it would make more sense for us all to stick together in the air, but I'd been outvoted on that count. Motherfucker. People tend not to trust machines when they start taking over and turn into our robot overlords, I said, only half joking. Sharon got worried when Modi kept saying they wanted Dagger dead, and she was wondering if we would limit Modi's capabilities for the time being, at least until we understood what he was going on. I disagreed. I liked Modi the way they were. I don't plan to become an overlord, teacher. That's what all the overlords say. Alright, I'm going to end it right here. I'm going to see you guys in the next video. And, bye.